Hello and welcome to Speak English with Ed. Today we're going to look at the present simple tense. Now you may well ask, what is the present simple tense? You may well ask, what are tenses? So I'll just say a tense is a style that's been added to a verb to tell you when the activity of the verb took place. Okay? So that when a verb talks about an activity, you know when it took place or when it takes place. That is what tenses do. So today we're working with the present simple tense, and I don't want you to worry about all the others. Now, when I say a time frame or time, I don't mean 3 p.m. or 12:15, a quarter past 12. I mean a period in time. And as far as tenses go, there's 3 periods in time. There's the present, which is now. There's the past, which is already gone, and there's the future, which is yet to come. And we can talk about actions in all these 3 different frames by using different tenses. So the one that we're going to talk about today is the present simple tense. Now there are 4 present tenses. There's the present simple that we're going to talk about. There's the present perfect. There's the present continuous, and there's the present perfect continuous tense. But we're only going to talk about the present simple tense today. So don't worry about the others at all just yet. Right, just concentrate on this one, the present simple. So how do you use it and why do you use it? Well, why? We'll do the why first. Now you use the present simple tense to show the time period that the action of the verb took place in. Now, for example, I work. I'm talking about now. I work now. I'm not saying, when I say that, I'm not saying that I am working now at the moment, in this moment in time, but it's saying that I do work now. Right now I do work. So to make a tense work, you need 2 parts. You need a subject and you need a verb. And in my example there, I work, I am the subject and the verb is work. So I work. We've got the 2 subjects, and I want you to notice that the verb there is in its basic form. It's in its root form as you find it in the dictionary. Now the root or basic form is the first word that you find in a dictionary. That would be the first word, as long as it's a verb, of course. Work is the first verb that you see in the dictionary. If you look here, it's this one. Now the same applies for most of the other verbs as well. So you can say I eat, I walk, I play, and I work, of course. They're all basic root forms of the verb. So it's just straight and what you see in the dictionary, and that's what you use. Now if the subject changes, that means if it stops being me and it becomes you, or it becomes we, you and me together, we can talk about you and me doing something, or it becomes they, we can talk about somebody else over there doing something. The verb still stays the root verb. We still use it as it is. So we can say that you work, you eat, you walk, you play. We can say that we work, we eat, we walk, or we play. And we can say that they work and they walk and they eat and they play as well. So whenever we use I, you, we, or they, we use the basic root form of the verb, always. Just remember that, it's always. Now what I want you to do is stop the video, and I want you to go through all these, and I want you to pick some verbs of your own out and just see how this works, and use the subject, these 4 subjects: I, you, we and they. Use the 4 subjects and pick a word that describes an action, something that is being done or something that you can do, and then add it, the root word of the verb, to this subject, and you'll see that it works. Okay, you have a go at that. You can use words like think, because you think. It's an activity, it's a mental activity. You think. You can use words like draw and cook and shop and love. Love is something that you do. I do love my wife. It's no question about that. So it's a verb. Just pick a verb and go through the dictionary. Pick your own verbs if you want. You can use some of these if you want, but it's better if you can pick your own. You'll see how your verbs fit into the plan and see how it works. So that's all fine when the subject is I, you, we and they. But what happens if the subject changes and we start talking about he and she and it? Well, there's a slight change to the verb here, the verb. We have to modify when we use he, she and it. We modify the verb by adding an s or es, depending on the spelling of the verb, of the word that you use, of the verbs. Now, verbs that don't end in s, so the last letter of the word, as in work, isn't an s, so we add an s. But if the last letter of the verb ends in an s, as in discuss, to discuss, then we add es, so it's discuss es. So we've seen that for I, you and we is all the basic verbs, but for he, she and it we must add an s, so that our verb work for I, you, we and they is work, but for he, she and it becomes works. It becomes works. And this applies to all the other verbs too that we used. She walks, it eats, he plays. There's an s added on to all the verbs. So again, I want you to stop the video and have a go and see how this applies to the same verbs that you used earlier. Instead of saying I, we, they, you, say he, she and it, and you'll find that you need to add an s to it. Now, as I said earlier, if the word ends in an s, then you must add es. So if we use verbs like access, in its basic form the word is access. So I access the stairs, you access the stairs, they and we access the stairs. But when it comes to he, she and it, you say he accesses the stairs, she accesses the stairs, it accesses the stairs. You must add es on the end. And the same applies for things like digress. She digresses. Words like undress ends in an s, so you've got to add es. He undresses. So it may take a little while to get used to this, for you to start to get used to it, but if you work on it and you practice these every day for just a few days, you will get into the habit of saying it works, I work, and so on. And that's how it works in practice. So that's the whole thing about how it works. But how do you put this into everyday speech? Well, if someone asks you, do you work? You can say to them, yes, I work. And that's in a present simple tense. The question was in present simple, do you work? And the answer that you give there is, yes, I work, is in present simple. But it's not great conversation. It doesn't make for good conversation. So if somebody says, do you work? It's good to say, yes, I work. I work at the biscuit factory. Or yes, I work at the biscuit factory. You can say, yes, I work for Mr. Magoo in the accounts office. You're just adding something to the conversation, but you're using the simple perfect tense. But maybe you don't work. Then you can turn that into a negative, still in the present perfect tense. And then you would say, no, I don't work at the moment, but I'm looking for a job. You keep the conversation going, and this is how the present tense, simple tense, fits into the way we speak every day, in everyday language and conversation. Now you could be asked, what do you do at the weekend? You can say, I play football. Or you can turn it into, add a little bit to it, say, I play football for the local sports team. You're just adding to the conversation. But what you're saying is that the present simple tense talks about things that are true in general. Now what I mean by that is, you can say that rabbits have got long ears. Now rabbits do have long ears. It's a fact. It's a general fact. Or you can say, I live in London. Now I don't live in London, but if you live in London you can say, I live in London. Now this can be true at the time, but it doesn't have to always be true, because a little bit later on, in a few years time, if you live in London, you may want to move away to somewhere else for any one of a number of reasons. So it doesn't have to be true forever, but it has to be true for the time that you're speaking about at the time. So basically that's the present simple tense. And how to use it. It's a verb that's used in its root form to give a time period when the action of the verb takes place. Now you must remember, it's normally I, you, we and they is the root verb. He, she and it adds an S or an ES if the verb ends in an S in its basic form. Now I hope that this video has been some help for you, and that you can get some benefit from it. The way that you can get more benefit from this is by practicing. And if you practice, I work, you work, we work, they work, it works, she works, he works. Practicing repeating these over and over again really will help you in getting used to saying these things naturally. So if you have found this video helpful, I would appreciate it if you could give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and that way you will get and ring the bell, of course, because that way you will get notified by YouTube when we release a new video. So until I release the next video, I'll say cheerio for now, and I'll see you in the next video. So happy learning, keep trying, keep speaking English, and bye for now. Bye.